Ooh, that looks tasty.
Listen up, everyone. We have a first contact situation. I'm gonna take care of it, but I need some help. Before you say anything, I'm willing to offer you a slightly used hot tub to help out. I just need your shields. Okay, fine. You drive a hard bargain. I'll throw in a diamond-encrusted dog whistle. Do we have a deal?
Welcome, folks. Today, the Hungry Gamer is back with another game review, and today we are talking about Moonrakers, designed by Austin Harrison and Max Anderson, and published by IV Games, or maybe that is 4 Games. I'm not sure. And as always, I do apologize if I mispronounce any of those names. Before I get started, please make sure you turn on your Klingon subtitles, because if I make any errors in my rules description, that's where you'll find those corrections. Additionally, thank you to Canadian Kev for helping out with today's voiceover intro. It's been a while since I've been able to get him to help out, and I'm very excited that he's back at it. So, what Moonrakers is it is a game that is a deck building and negotiation style game with a little bit of, I'll say, character upgrading, though your characters are your ships that you have over here. And the premise of the game is that you are all part of the Moonrakers, which is this space mercenary group that gets hired on to go out and do jobs across the universe. And the last thing I'll say before I get started is this is not a full setup. I just set this up so you could see everything. There would actually be more of these contract cards here. There's actually twice as many. There would be another one of these crew cards, and there would be 2 more of these ship parts as well. But you get the idea. And what you're not seeing is you're not seeing a player board, and I'll show you that in just a little bit. Now, if you are not interested in how this game is played and just want to jump ahead to my final thoughts, then you want to go to the timestamp on the screen right now. For those of us still here, let's talk about how this game is going to work. So each player is going to have their own basic deck. And the basic deck, as you have in all deck building games, is just obviously your basic cards. And everyone's going to have these same ones. You have 10 cards that are useful, and then 1 card, the miss, is just going to clog up your deck. And as you play, you'll be able to add more of these cards into your deck, as well as other types of cards. In addition to that, each player has their own shipboard. And onto that shipboard, you have spaces for 4 different ship parts. And these ship parts are here. I'll talk about how you buy them in just a moment, but every time you get one, you'll be taking it and placing it onto your board. It'll give you some kind of new ability, and each one tells you what it is. Down here, this is telling you what the cost is. This is kind of the company that makes it. And then up here, it tells you what kind of additional cards you get to add to your deck. So by buying this, you not only get this ability, but you're going to get another card into your deck right there. As you play, you're also going to be purchasing new crew members. And again, each crew member tells you exactly what it is that it does down here and what the cost is. And these will also go into your deck as well. Now, the core of the game is completing these jobs, these contracts that are out here. And by completing those contracts, you're going to wind up getting money, which you use to, as I said, buy ship parts and buy new crew members to come work with you. And you will be gaining prestige. Prestige over here is how you win the game. The first player to get all the way up to 10 prestige will be the winner of the game. And in addition to getting prestige for finishing contracts, you're also going to start the game with some objective cards. And each objective card, again, tells you exactly what it is that it does. But what you'll see is on the top right, whenever you complete it, as soon as that's done, you can immediately claim that prestige. Now, let's actually talk about how a game round works. So what's going to wind up happening is, let me slide some stuff out of the way here, what's going to happen is on a given player's turn, they're going to make a choice. And the choice that they're going to make is, do they want to just stay at the base, in which case they're going to get a little money and they'll have the option to draw some new objectives and so on, or do they want to go and do a contract? And this is what you're going to be doing for most of the game, is going off and doing contracts. Now, when you go do a contract, you're going to be able to pick one, and I will just grab this one right here. And at the bottom, it tells you what it is that you need to have to complete the contract. What this is telling us is you have to have played 5 reactors and 3 shields in order to complete this mission. If the mission gets completed, the reward is 2 credits and 3 prestige. Down here, you'll also see this hazard. That means that In addition to having to have these things here, you're going to have to roll these hazard dice. And what these hazard dice do is they represent whatever dangers you run into on the job. And each one has a blank face. It has one hazard sides and two hazard sides. And what that is whoever winds up with those hazards, that's negative prestige. So if I were to roll this here, I would gain 3 prestige, but I would lose 3 prestige. However, luckily for you, by playing a shield, it will negate those hazard dice. So in other words, if you play 3 shields, unless you roll a 4, you're good to go. Now, all that is all well and good. However, what's interesting about the game is how you get these out there, because your hand size is only 5. So right there, you'll see this is asking for 8 different things. There's a couple ways to get there. You might have ship parts that give you bonuses. You might have crew members that give you bonuses, or subtract things here. But really what you're going to do is you're going to be negotiating with the other players around the table to come with you and help you, because the Moonrakers, they work together. And so what you're going to do is, through playing everybody that's joined, by playing their cards, they're going to try to get up to this number. And before you start, everyone who's coming, you agree to how you're splitting the rewards. So perhaps there are 3 people going to do this. And you said, okay, all of us are going to get 1 prestige, 2 of us are going to get 1 credit, and the 2 people that get 1 credit, they're each going to have to roll one of these hazard dice. Okay, great. Then you just get into actually playing your hand, and to do that, you have 1 action. And each time you play a card, that is 1 action. So that means on its surface, you can each only play 1 card. However, what you're going to do is you're going to play cards like reactors. So a reactor gives me +2 actions. Great, so now I have 2 more. And then from that, I'm going to go ahead and play another reactor, which has now gotten me up to a total. Now I have 3 actions because I have 1 here and then I got these 2. Then for here, I'm going to play a thruster. Now a thruster is not something that I need, but that's going to allow me to draw 2 more cards. Then from there, I'm going to play 1 shield here and another shield here, and now that is it. I'm out of actions, but I've played 2 shields and 2 reactors. Good for me. Then the other players get to go and do what they're going to do, and hopefully you'll succeed. After you've finished that, then you get to, everyone collects all the rewards, then everyone takes their prestige penalties from hazards, then everybody will discard their entire hand if they participated in this mission, and they draw back up to 5 cards. You will always discard all your cards, then draw back up to 5. Then the player whose turn it was, they'll get to buy stuff, and then on we go. So that's pretty much it. That's how this game works. So what do I like about this game? First off, I'll have to say I really do like the card play. There is something fascinating to me about the way that you can play as many cards as you want, assuming you have a way to get those actions out there. So what that means is, if you're able to keep playing these reactors, you're going to get to keep playing more and more and more actions. If you have a really good combination of reactors and thrusters, it could just be non-ending. You can go through your whole deck, and that to me is very, very fun and very clever. I also really appreciate that there's only a few types of cards. There's not a ton of cards in the game, so you don't have to remember a lot of what's going on. And unlike a lot of deck builders, as you build the deck, you just get all kinds of crazy, wacky cards to do different things, and it can kind of slow the game down, but not in this one, because for the most part, you're going to be getting more and more of these basic cards. Yes, sometimes you will get a damage card that's better, like this one here is a damage card that does 3, or this one here is a damage card that does 2. But beyond that, and getting new crew cards, which tell you exactly what they do on them, and again, when the times I've played, I've never had seen anyone get more than 4. So it keeps the game moving, and it keeps it moving in a satisfying way. And so that I particularly like. I also really like how every time if you participate in a raid, you discard your whole hand, and then you draw back up to 5. And that, to me, is really, really cool, because what it does is it makes you want to interact in the negotiations in a different way. Because there are times when you're playing and you just look at your hand and you say, boy, I have junk. I'm not going to be able to do anything on my turn. Maybe I don't have any reactors. So maybe you're going to want to volunteer to go help out and do this mission. And you say, I'll do it for free. Because you're just trying to redraw your hand and get something new. And that is really interesting. It raises the level of interaction beyond what it could be in this game, and that I really, really like. I also really like how the contracts work. For the most part, you're not doing contracts by yourself. It's just not going to happen. And so what that does is it creates a constant need to negotiate, a constant need to get other people to come with you. And that really is very, very fun to me. And it creates these fun little dynamics as you're going through, and people start trying to outbid each other. So, well, I'll come and I just need two prestige. And someone else says, well, no, but I'll go ahead and come and, I'll just do it for one prestige. And someone else is going to jump in because they really want to just get their cards out there and say, I'll come for 2 credits, and back and forth. And then sometimes you have this group where everybody's participating because you're trying to get this one big tough thing done. And other times it's just something quick and easy, and it's just one person's going to come along. And it really is a very fun dynamic. And I also really enjoy how the shipbuilding works. There is something quite fun and satisfying about getting your 4 pieces out there. But along with that, if you're building up your ship, you're really kind of developing a strategy, because in many ways you want to make yourself really good at some things so people are going to want to take you along with them all the time. But at the same time, if you're building up this ship and you are becoming good at one thing, that means you're not going to be good at some other things, which means now you're going to be reliant on others at the same time, and trying to figure out that balance is really fun. Along with that, if you're building up your ship, you're probably not getting new crew members. And so it's a lovely, lovely balance that I really do enjoy. And the last thing I have to say is this is a pretty darn nice production. Now, they sent me one of the Kickstarter versions, so I don't know if the versions that everyone can get have these metal coins, but I hope so, because these metal coins are awesome. Man, are they awesome. And the box itself is really, really well organized. So what are my quibbles with the game? And the core of my quibbles with the game are simply have to do with the fact that this is a negotiation game. And I'll explain that over the next couple of minutes here. First off, I'm going to say, when this game was initially pitched to me, not by the publishers, but by other people as a game that I should check out, they told me this is a deck building game, and you do some negotiation, and you're deck building, and you're doing space stuff. Well, to me, that's not true. This is a negotiation game with deck building. The core of this to me is about the negotiation. If you don't like negotiating and wheeling and dealing and trying to kind of play the other people, then you're not going to like this game, just straight up. Because to me, my experience with this is a 60% negotiation game and a 40% deck building game. Because like I said earlier, you can't really do most of the missions. There's some you can do, but you can't do most of the contracts by yourself. So it's all about that negotiation. It's all about leveraging when you're going to go and take less, and when you're going to try to go and maybe take more of a risk, but be able to get more prestige and more credits from it. And if you're not into negotiation, wheeling and dealing, then you're going to have a more negative experience with this game. The next thing I'm going to say is, you need 4 players for this. You just do. 3's okay, and 5 might wind up taking a bit of a long time. But really, this is a game that you're going to play with 4 players. The solo mode, it exists, it works. It's not particularly interesting to me because, again, like I said, the core of this game to me is about the negotiation, it's about the talking back and forth. And you just don't get that in a way that's as satisfying as when you're playing with human beings in the solo mode. And the same thing with 2 players. You got one person to negotiate with. Well, that's not really fun because you're losing that back and forth, and other people may be undercutting your bid. So that suddenly makes you have to try to make another decision. Do I want to do this for even less? Or, let them go do it for less, and I'm going to keep my good hand that I have at this particular time. And then I'm just kind of circle back around to this idea that this is mostly a negotiation game. Just kind of put out some of the things to think about if you're not familiar with the negotiation games. Kind of as a rule, I think negotiation games aren't really fair. I mean, it's capitalism, right? It's not necessarily fair. It's not fair that maybe you're going to come do this job and you're going to wind up doing most of the work, but you have to wind up taking a third of the rewards, because even though you're doing all the work, someone else is willing to come in and do it for less. And so now you wind up getting something that's just not that you feel like isn't fair. But of course, you need to get that. So you felt like you had to go and do that. And that can be unsatisfying for a lot of people. If you aren't willing to look at this as a game about playing the other people more than you're playing the game, you're going to have a negative experience. And now that is not a Moonrakers problem. That's a negotiation game problem. And there are a lot of people out there that don't dig negotiation games. And I'm just I'm saying it basically I'm saying this twice in my quibble section because I just want to really reinforce that this is mostly about negotiation and you just have to be aware of that. I think the deck building is satisfying, it's fun, it's interesting, but at the same time, you might find it irritating that you have to have the right cards to be able to actually go ahead and play more cards. That might be drive you crazy because it is totally possible in the only 4-player game I've gotten to play. There was a couple times when I just had no reactors. So there's nothing I could do. I was trying to get people to let me come along for nothing, but of course they figured out while I was trying to come along for nothing, and they just let me sit there and flounder and suffer. And so that might not be satisfying to you, knowing that you have to be able to negotiate a lot. And if you aren't able to get people to let you come along sometimes because you're not willing to take that cut rate, then you might wind up just being stuck and having dead turns. And speaking of dead turns, there can be a downtime issue with this game depending on how long people are negotiating. Because if there's a turn where you're not going to go for whatever reason, you might just be sitting there for 5 minutes while people negotiate back and forth. And then when you actually are playing your turn, it's relatively quick. It's okay, I got a reactor, and that reactor is going to let me put out 2 shields. Boom, done. Well, great. You did 3 or 4 minutes of a negotiation just to do that. So again, if you're not into the negotiation part and that fun and the wheeling and dealing, you're going to be unsatisfied, I think, with this game. There you have it, folks. That is Moonrakers. I gotta say, I think this is a really clever negotiation game. It really is. The deck building is fun, it's satisfying, but if you're someone that's looking for a negotiation game and you can get at least 3 people to the table, preferably 4, then this is really a game that you should be checking out. It's fun and it's actually relatively quick to play through once people know what they're doing. And assuming you don't have people that are just belaboring it and really taking a long time, then this really is one to check out. I believe they have an expansion coming to Kickstarter soon. I have no idea what it's going to do. So you should have an opportunity to not only get this now, I think you can get it at retail right now, but also maybe get this kind of more deluxe kind of version. As always, if I made any errors in the rules overview, please let me know in the comments with the timestamp. I'll get that into the Klingon subtitles. If you found this video useful, please like, subscribe, and share. Thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.